Hello, and welcome to the Lofeld Consulting Group presentation on generative AI for proposal development, writing the proposal of the future. I'm Bruce Feldman, Lofeld Consulting Group Vice President for Artificial Intelligence and our lead instructor for our Generative AI for Proposal Professionals class. I've got over 30 years of experience in business development, capture, and proposal preparation for the federal government, DoD, and the intelligence community. Generative AI burst into public awareness almost 2 years ago in late 2022. We've since found that it's an amazingly powerful, transformative tool for business development, capture, and proposal-related work. It can synthesize information, generate ideas, and it writes beautifully. It has lots of places for application in your proposal workflow. At the same time, the pace of innovation with artificial intelligence is staggering. So we'd like to talk to you about some near-term expectations and applications we can expect from generative AI based on our experience, but recognizing that the pace of innovation is such that we can't forecast more than 2 to 5 years out. Now, it's a foregone conclusion that the current generation of generative AI tools will be immensely helpful for your GovCon activities. We've already seen many use cases where GenAI is already being put to work, helping companies write more proposals faster, better, and cheaper. There's lots you need to know to make GenAI effective for you. There's lots of uninformed media praise for GenAI, how it's so amazingly powerful, do everything for you. There's also uninformed media criticism that GenAI is a terror to be feared. In fact, it is neither. It has both amazing capabilities and significant limitations. Different generative AI models give you wildly different performance, so selecting your platform for use is going to be critical to the effectiveness and cost efficiency that you gain out of adopting generative AI. There are significant financial implications. You can enhance revenue, you can save cost, but at the same time, you have to know how to use these tools effectively and wisely. In early 2024, we completed a benchmark study comparing 5 public generative AI platforms with 2 private platforms designed expressly for GovCon-related work. We found that there are significant advantages to using those private platforms because they let you protect your proprietary data from corruption, leakage, reuse for AI training, and retention after engagement. Those are very important considerations for helping you protect your proprietary data. These GovCon private platforms are also domain aware. That is, they know about how to do business development, capture, and proposal-related tasks. So they're immediately powerful and applicable to your tasks. However, noticing the chart on the right, we talk about these different platforms we benchmarked and their benchmark scores for capability. I'd like to point out that all of the public platforms have at least 1, if not 2 more versions just in the last 6 months. The pace of innovation in the field is staggering. So today, ChatGPT 3.5 is no longer the default model. It's now ChatGPT 4.0 for Omni. It's not Google Bard anymore. It's been superseded by Google Gemini, so on and so forth. Platform selection will matter. All of these capabilities are different because they've been trained on different data. They have a different extent of being domain aware. So you'll have to be careful in evaluating and selecting the platform you choose to use for your GovCon-related work. There are significant limitations in using current generative AI tools. The main one that people are concerned about is they will make things up that aren't true. Inherently, generative AI tools do not know the difference between fact and fiction. They're designed to be creative based on the historical statistics of the words that they are trained on. They're not software. They're not databases where you put the same thing in and you always get the same answer out. In fact, they are designed to be creative and different every time you interact with them. Because they can make things up, and I've seen error rates on the order of 2 to 4%, 2 to 5% cited for factual assertions from generative AI. So you'll need to be very careful about owning and fact-checking all the factual assertions that generative AI makes when you use it to create narrative. It's really not ideal for tasks that require accuracy and repeatability. Generative AI is inherently creative, but again, as I said before, it's not a fact-based system. It does know the difference between fact and fiction, reality and hallucination. Generative AI models based on large language models don't learn anything new without additional training. So you have to find ways to inject your corporate proprietary data into your process along with generative AI so it knows about things that have happened since the end of its training date. It can forget things. It has to have a host IT environment that will let you protect your proprietary data. There are uncertainties in the copyright laws that go around the data that's being used to train your generative AI. It doesn't necessarily know domain-specific jargon, the word usage, the terms that we use when we talk about things in the GovCon community. It's not a database of facts or quotations, and it doesn't know anything about your company's proprietary data, your proprietary capabilities and experience. So we have to find ways to get that kind of information into the narrative we ask generative AI to write. So what have we at Lofeld Consulting learned in the last year or year and a half of using generative AI to help our customers write proposals? And we've established over 39 use cases where we have helped customers use generative AI to generate high quality proposal content and narrative. One of the things we found is that we have to teach the proposal professionals in your company that GenAI is a productivity and quality tool. It's an assistant. It doesn't replace people. It doesn't generate high quality, compliant, responsive, and compelling proposal narrative with the snap of a fingers. Okay? It is not software. It's not a database where you do something and you always get the same answer out. It is driven by language. So we have to teach people how to interact with it in a way that is language sensitive in order to get an outcome and a response that is useful to you. You'll need to select your generative AI platform based on your best practices. You've learned how to do things certain ways based on your experience and your particular niche in the ecosystem. You've learned that from blood, sweat, and tears of both writing bids, losing bids, the experience gained from decades of working with your customers. You'll find that generative AI platforms come with canned prompts that have been created by the developers. But those canned prompts may or may not work in ways that are responsive to the ways you need generative AI to fit in with your best practices. So you need other ways to make GenAI adaptable to the way you want things done. And then when you talk about generative AI and you talk to the vendors about how to buy a platform, you need to keep in mind that there are additional hidden costs. You have to be able to curate and manage an enterprise data repository that is your proprietary data and make it accessible to the GenAI. And you need to pay investment for organizational change management to get your enterprise ready to use GenAI effectively and cost efficiently. Now, this chart here shows the overall BD life cycle. On the left there, you can see that some of the slices are in a dark blue shade. Those represent the slices of the life cycle specific to proposal preparation. Those three phases of the BD life cycle we've highlighted on the right side of the chart. Those notations in italics reflect the areas that we at Lofeld have already helped customers use generative AI to help with proposal preparation. We've established, as I said before, almost 40 use cases where we've done that. We've learned a lot by doing it. What we found in key is that organizational change management component where you expose, in particular, your BD, capture, and proposal practitioners to how to use GenAI effectively and well. Here are some sample use cases where we've already been using generative AI to write proposals over the last year and a half. We've used it to help us with solutioning. Generative AI platforms can be experts in systems. They can also take in your proprietary data and build upon that to generate new ideas and new content. So it's very powerful for generating ideas for your winning solution. You can also do analysis on solicitation documents. You can analyze an RFP, look for inconsistencies, look for questions, look for ambiguity, frame out those questions, speculate on what the answers might be for those questions. You can find applicable content in your corporate enterprise repository that is applicable to past performance, to resumes, to solutioning for a given solicitation. You can draft high-quality narrative following the best practices that you've established. You can also draft oral scripts, oral presentation, information, questions, and answers. It's a very, very powerful complementary capability to the human intelligence you already bring to bear in your proposal development process. So having said all this about what we've learned in the really very limited year and a half where we've been using generative AI in powerful ways for a proposal, let's talk about what we can expect the future to hold. So what do we expect from the government in its use of generative AI? Now, vendors have already built some platforms to help the government with solicitation, preparation, and evaluation. The government's clearly already using generative AI to draft solicitation documents. I think that's a good thing. Generative AI is a very powerful writing assistant. As long as the people responsible for the citation maintain ownership of the document, they have to make sure that the assertions made, the way the requirements are written, the way the clauses are selected and packaged is correct. We think there's experimentation with proposal evaluation tasks like compliance checking. I think the government would like to be able to take in proposals, quickly check to make sure they're compliant, give vendors an opportunity, if schedule permits, to remedy compliance weaknesses or deficiencies. Proposal can be then further evaluated because the government's interested in good, high quality, value added proposals. If there's a chance to fix a compliance error, I think they would like to extend that capability to industry. But having said that, sophisticated proposal evaluation tests like best value determination, in my opinion, the government is not ready to use proposal evaluation tools based in generative artificial intelligence to do that yet. I think the government does want to discourage industry from using generative AI to submit compliance but undifferentiated GenAI prepared proposal content. The government doesn't want proposal content that is compliant and responsive but not compelling. It doesn't offer value that they can't get. They want to see differentiation between offers. Using GenAI just to bang out a set of uninteresting, undifferentiated proposals is not to the government's advantage. It's not what the government wants. I think one of the outcomes of knowing that this is possible is that the government's going to use more multi-step acquisitions where you might have multiple gates. The first gate might be establishing your bona fides to be a proposal bidder with factual information on what you have done in the past and what your capabilities are. And then perhaps through the use of orals, where they can see your bid team in action. I think the government is going to experiment with prohibitions on using generative AI in certain kinds of ways. But I think generative AI use is so pervasive in our society that it's going to be very difficult for the government to write a clause and then hold everybody compliant to a clause that prohibits the use of generative AI. Now, the government may ask you to commit to continuing to use GenAI on your program after award. If you're going to write a great proposal, they'd like to know, and if you use GenAI to do it, they would like to know that you're going to continue to use GenAI to write great quality content on your program after award. Now, the key decision makers in your company have their own agendas and issues that they need to resolve for your use of generative AI. You may be giving them a strong demand signal that you see efficiencies and opportunities in using it, but your CIO is going to want policy, for example, that prohibits use of unapproved platforms, because a lot of vendors record the information you put into their platform and the response for training on future models. You don't want your proprietary data being input to a public platform where the vendor records your information. I expect we'll see policies that prohibit that kind of use. People are going to have to settle on how to host your GenAI platform in an environment that is cyber secure and resilient, most likely in a corporate virtual private cloud or on your house IT infrastructure. And then you're going to have to understand the overall cost performance trade space, associated risks and liabilities. We'll talk about more in a few moments. Some additional predictions for artificial intelligence being used for GovCon. First of all, I will say from just a technology point of view, we're seeing amazing advancements in the field. Generative AI is built around the capability of what's called large language models. That's kind of the word prediction, word generation component of the generative AI platform. I think we're going to continue to see those get larger, and they do perform better with scale. We're learning that. But I think we'll see also more internetworking of large language models, so maybe small language models that will enable us to do things that are more complex, more sophisticated, including applying more ability to do logic and reasoning. That's not the strong suit for generative AI today. Generative AI is great with language and writing. There's logic and reasoning embedded in the way it's trained, but it's not really a logic and reasoning engine per se. I think we're going to see ways to bundle up prompts or instructions to generative AI using AI assistants and agents. An AI assistant where you can have a set of prompts linked together and kind of hit the button. You have a programmed interaction between you and the GenAI where it asks you for information, gives you a response. It asks you for more information, you give it another response. It then generates responses along the way. Agents will be even more sophisticated, allowing you to have branch points and logic embedded within a set of queries or prompts to your generative AI platform as well. So you'll be able to basically to structure your interaction with generative AI to your best practices, your processes, and how you as an individual want to interact. We're already seeing multimodal opportunities with GenAI built into the platforms. You can have text or speech or imagery or audio to generate inputs and outputs. So, for example, you can imagine now you'll be able to put an orals presentation into a GenAI platform and receive out a written list of questions, for example. That's clearly coming here in the near future, if not here already. I think we'll see standalone generative AI platforms where you have no connection to the internet. When I say that, I use the expression air gapped. It means you have a standalone capability. So there's no potential for anything from the outside to access your generative AI platforms. Obviously, it eliminates a lot of potential cyber vulnerabilities, but because a lot of Gen AI platforms do still require internet access, there will be a performance trade-off to be made there as those air-gapped applications emerge. We're going to see more integration with the products that government agencies typically use for content delivery, like Adobe Acrobat, Microsoft Office, other capabilities like that, Word or PowerPoint. And so as those integrations happen, GenAI will enable you not only to create documentation, but also help you edit and format it in a way in the final deliverable product that's required. I think we'll see better ways of getting your corporate data into a GenAI platform. When I say into it, I mean make it part of your interaction. So the GenAI is able to search, retrieve data from your corporate knowledge repository, and then combine that with your request in order to generate really high quality output. That capability exists today. I think those capabilities and tools are going to improve here very rapidly in the next 2 years. And then finally, I think we're going to see the emergence of an ecosystem where we have content providers or aggregators and analysts who will take generative AI and they're going to apply it to their own data streams to sell you highly customized but commoditized products. But when I say forecasting, these are near-term predictions. I think these are all going to happen no more than the next 2 years. What does the future hold for 5 or 10 years beyond? I don't know, but I think we're all looking at here at the dawning of the age of artificial general intelligence as well. So when it comes to writing the future proposal, there are significant demand signals from both the government and from industry that can be satisfied by generative AI. So, for example, the government's desire to use proposal evaluation capabilities based in generative AI to quickly evaluate compliance, to look for proposal evaluation features, strengths, weaknesses, risks, deficiencies, to eliminate quickly proposals that are not differentiated in a way that are meaningful. Maybe they're compliant and responsive, but don't offer any particular value. We also want to reduce on the industry side the need for specialty prompt engineering to meet our best practices or individual preferences. I think we'll see agents and assistants multiplying very quickly here in the next couple of years. That will enable complex prompts to work with greater accuracy and reliability. In response to the government's increased use of orals for proposal evaluation, of course, the audio functionality coming to the forefront in generative AI, so it can listen to your actual or recording of an oral dry run and provide critique, suggestions, questions, feedback. I think we'll see increased emphasis on driving down the rate of hallucination. Nobody wants an incorrect factual assertion in a bid because then that bid can be revoked after award. We're going to provide fast, immediate access, not only to information in your corporate knowledge base, but the right information, the most relevant information. That can be done through techniques such as model fine-tuning, enhanced capability for retrieval augmented generation, as I mentioned on the previous chart. I think you're also going to see increased emphasis on APIs to your in-house platforms so you can readily pull data out of other corporate knowledge systems, your customer relationship management system, your HR system, your contracts management system, program management, documentation capabilities. You can have access to all this different information, which you can then readily import into and use in your proposal preparation process. As part of that, we'll see more integration with the workflows that you use for your business processes. And then finally, I think you're going to see the emergence of products that come from data aggregators, but that enable them to create highly customized, readily usable products for your proposal preparation. So to bring generative AI into your enterprise, you're going to have to address 3 major topics. First of all, there's the change in culture that's necessary. I've mentioned again, GenAI is not a database or a fact repository. It's unlike any other tool that is currently in your inventory because it is inherently creative, but it also has significant limitations. So there will need to be an investment in training and practice time for not only your practitioners, but really across your enterprise to set expectations and standards for the use of the tools. You have to understand the risk to your corporation, what the mitigations are before you get buy-in from your decision makers. And then finally, you're going to have to find the cost versus performance versus risk trade-off position for your company. How much can you afford to spend in return for the revenue enhancement, increased win rate, increased number of proposals that you can submit? And will we see win rates stabilize, or will we see some companies able to eke out increased win rates at the expense of companies that choose not to use generative AI? This is a picture of the Lofeld Consulting Group Generative AI Adoption Roadmap. I don't mean to imply that these are sequential items, but they are all things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to define these capabilities, you're going to have to explore them, research them, and then present them all to make cost-effective, efficient use of your generative AI platform. So first of all, inside your enterprise, you're going to have to develop a common understanding and language. People need to talk about generative AI in ways that are informed, because the capabilities are amazing, but you can't proceed on the assumptions that are incorrect. So for example, you need to educate people that generative AI is not a database. It is not a fact repository. It is a writing assistant, at least in the current generation of AI tools. You're going to have to define a value proposition so you can show tangible outcomes and benefits from your use of generative AI. These would be productivity gains, potential for improved win rate, potential for increasing the number of proposals you submit, increased personnel job satisfaction, retention. You're going to have to look into the hiring you're going to do as people come out of college or out of other venues, and they are expecting to see generative AI capabilities on their desktop for their use. And then ultimately, you're going to have to define the business case. What is your break-even point? How are you going to acquire generative AI capabilities? How are you going to sustain them? Who's going to pay the bill? How can you allocate the costs? And what is your time to break even? You're going to have to assess your current proposal development operations. Now, I recommend the use of a BD maturity model. Maturity model lets you score your current major processes on a scale from, really not mature, sort of ad hoc, ad lib, people just kind of going out there and doing what they think is best, all the way to highly disciplined, highly repeatable processes, already making use of effective automation. As you score your processes on a BD maturity model scale, you can identify those injection points for generative AI where you'll get the most and quickest return on your investment. That's going to have impact on your IT environment, how you set up and do things today. And you're also going to have to assess how ready you are to make your corporate knowledge available to the generative AI to write the highest quality, compliant, responsive, and compelling content that you can. You're going to have to get your workforce ready. And by that, I mean apply the principles of organizational change management. Organizational change management is much more than just training or upskilling your workforce. It's going to be establishing a common vocabulary across your company, establishing common understanding across your company, using communications to convey that understanding, and then building a certain measure of AI fluency so you're able to use GenAI as effectively and communicate how you're using it effectively as possible. You're going to have to select your AI platform and integrate it into your enterprise IT environment. So you'll be able to compare, you'll need to be able to compare features of functionality, security profile, costs. You're going to want to pilot the program on a live bid with assistance to get your people ready to really use it effectively. Please don't proceed on the assumption you could send 2 or 3 people to a one-day class and then come back and bootstrap your enterprise. You need to bring in significant culture change through organizational change management. You need to identify and address the risks because you will need buy-in from critical influencers and decision makers in your enterprise. Your chief financial officer is going to understand the financial implications. Your CIO is going to understand the IT and cyber risks. Your legal people are going to understand what corporate exposure might exist. Your contracts executive is going to want to understand how might the government choose to prohibit or restrict use of generative AI in proposal development, and so on and so forth. You're going to want to institutionalize AI in your business process workflows, especially for capture proposal development. You can tune the GenAI capabilities to your company best practices, but that will take time and education in the workforce. And finally, you're going to want to set metrics and key performance indicators, KPIs, for tracking your forecast, your expectations, your accomplishment, and then your near-term and long-term attainment of your goals. So you're going to need to identify those indicators and track them rigorously. Now, if you would like Lofeld Consulting Group assistance with generative AI adoption, we offer a 3 half-day class. You can see the link to it here, which I teach on generative AI and how to use it if you are a proposal professional. We also offer a power user immersion program where we work with you on a live bid on a generative AI platform to generate actual content you would use in your proposal. We take up to 20 of your people who are working on a proposal and put them under the supervision of 2 expert GenAI trained proposal professionals who will then help them through workshops, facilitation, coaching, and other assistance on learning to generate on a live bid high-quality proposal content. We've already trained over 100 of our professional proposal experts on how to use GenAI to help you on your bid. So if you're already using a generative AI platform, we provide you with expert assistance that can master your platform quickly and come in and assist you. Lofeld Consulting Group continues to be a premier provider of capture and proposal assistance services. We're a consulting firm focused exclusively on government markets.